Good evening. You're watching the main news on HKIBC. I'm Janice Lo. Here's a look at tonight's top stories. China and the Philippines point fingers at each other over latest vessel collision in South China Sea. Taxi driver involved in high-speed crash yesterday passes away, while passenger remains in serious condition. And lawmaker Michael Tien hits out at authorities after cost of infrastructure projects shoots up exponentially. China has dismissed the Philippines' accusation that it was responsible for a collision of two vessels in the South China Sea yesterday. The Foreign Ministry instead urged Manila to stop provoking trouble in the waters claimed by both sides. One day after the Philippines released footage showing how its supply boat was rammed by a much bigger Chinese Coast Guard vessel, Beijing hit back with its version of events. Foreign Ministry spokesperson Mao Ning urged the Philippines to stop provoking trouble in the sea and tow away its illegally grounded warship from Renai Reef, also known as Second Thomas Shoal. Releasing its own footage, China Coast Guard insisted it took action in accordance with the law after the Philippine vessels ignored its warnings before the collision. Chinese ambassador to the Philippines, Huang Xilian, meanwhile, was summoned by Manila's Foreign Affairs Department this morning. But Huang was apparently out of town and sent his deputy instead. Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. was also concerned about the incident. He has ordered the Coast Guard to launch an investigation. His office added that the collision has caused damage to their vessel within their exclusive economic zone, and the matter is taken seriously at the highest level of government.
All incidents like this will actually bolster the case that it's not the Philippines that's the aggressor, but the other party, which is China, that's actually undertaking dangerous maneuvers and blockades and putting at risk not only vessels, but more importantly, the people who are manning the vessels.
No Filipino crew members were injured in the collision, while Manila is still assessing the damage to the vessel. Back in Hong Kong, the driver of the taxi which crashed in high speed on Clearwater Bay Road yesterday has succumbed to his injuries. A car expert dismissed suggestions that vehicles which run on liquefied petroleum gas are more likely to explode upon collision. Janice Lo reports.
In the horrific accident yesterday, which was captured by dashboard cameras, a taxi plowed into a road barrier on Clearwater Bay Road at high speed before launching into the air and bursting into flames after hitting a tree. The 78-year-old driver was already unconscious when he was rushed to hospital. His condition deteriorated and passed away just after midnight. The only passenger, a 34-year-old man, was able to free himself from the wreckage. He is now treated at the intensive care unit of Queen Elizabeth Hospital and remains in serious condition. Automobile Association Honorary Life President Ringo Lee said, "Cars rarely go up in flames after a crash." He suspected the taxi caught fire because its electrical wires or gas tank was damaged. Lee also pointed out that liquefied petroleum gas tanks on Hong Kong's taxis are very sturdy, even more so than the fuel tanks for vehicles with internal combustion engines. Of course, it depends on the speed and point of impact, but generally speaking, it is unlikely that the LPG tank would explode upon a collision, he added. Police are still investigating the cause of the accident. Janice Lo, HKIBC.
A man in his 50s was attacked in Central in broad daylight by three men wielding knives. The culprits, said to be in their 20s to 30s and non-Chinese, stormed into a cafe on Wellington Street at around 4 p.m. They jumped into an awaiting vehicle after the attack and fled the scene. The victim sustained injuries on his hands and back, but remained conscious as he was rushed to Queen Mary Hospital. The suspected getaway vehicle was found burned an hour later in Pat Hung, while the attackers are still on the run. A lawmaker has demanded authorities to be more prudent when coming up with budget estimates for infrastructure projects. Michael Tien's criticism came after the cost of a road link and an MTR station in the new territories have shot up by billions of dollars. Macy Mock reports.
Lawmakers on two transport-related panels were up in arms last week after learning that the cost of two infrastructure projects have shot up by billions of dollars. That includes the trunk road T4, a 2.3-kilometer link connecting Tsingsha Highway and Shatin Road. The government now says the project will cost $7.2 billion compared to the original estimate of $1.1 billion given in 2006. Another is the construction of Kutong Station, an interchange between the future Northern Link and the existing East Rail Line. The budget went from $3.5 billion in 2021 to $5.9 billion following the latest review, a 69% jump. Speaking on radio, lawmaker Michael Tien slammed at the cost overruns for both projects as ridiculous. He accused authorities of treating the Legislative Council as an automated telling machine, simply coming back and asking for more money after the original budget failed to cover the costs. He noted tender prices for civil engineering works have only doubled in the past 17 years and wondered how the trunk road could have cost 6 times more to build over the same period. The former boss of the Kowloon Canton Railway also criticized the MTR Corporation for underestimating construction costs, citing the Shatin Central Link as an example. Former president of Hong Kong Institution of Engineers, Aaron Bok, gave his take on the matter. He said the expanded works areas for the two projects may have contributed to the higher costs. Heavy public scrutiny, meanwhile, may have led authorities to overestimate the costs at their latest budget revision, Bok added. Maisie Mock, HKIBC.
Overseas, dozens of people were killed overnight in the Gaza Strip as Israel intensified its air raids on the enclave ahead of a ground invasion. Both China and the United States are continuing diplomatic efforts to minimize casualties. Raymond Young reports.
Even before its long-speculated ground invasion, Israel has reduced much of the Gaza Strip into rubble. The Israeli military said it had shelled 320 targets across Gaza over the past day, including tunnels, operational headquarters, and outposts occupied by armed groups. Palestinian officials said some 400 people were killed by the air raids in the last 24 hours. Local rescue groups said many bombs landed in close proximity to hospitals, refugee camps, and other densely populated areas. More than 4,600 people have been killed in Gaza since the conflict began in early October, when Hamas fighters launched a bloody assault in southern Israel. More than 1,400 Israelis were killed, while another 210 or so were captured. According to a New York Times report, Washington has been putting pressure on Israel to delay its ground invasion so that diplomatic efforts can continue to secure the release of more hostages. China, which is shaping up as a power broker in the Middle East, once again called for a ceasefire and pledged to do whatever needed to restore peace. Special envoy on the Middle East, Zhang Jun, who was touring the region, has already talked to Israeli and Palestine officials over the phone in hopes of seeking a resolution. Raymond Yang, HKIBC.
The annual Swimming World Cup has wrapped up in Budapest. Australia's Kaylee McKeown was crowned overall champion, while Hong Kong star Siobhan Haughey is happy to catch a break. Janice Lo reports.
I can confirm now as well, you are our confirmed second place overall for the Swimming World Cup. A crown
and a silver medal. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Siobhan Oye.
Finishing off the World Cup in her best expertise, Siobhan Haughey clocked 52.54 seconds in the 100-meter freestyle event, the fifth fastest this year. The 25-year-old says she's going to take a week off to enjoy time out of the pool, to refresh herself and get ready for the next season. Meanwhile, in men's, China's Qin Haiyang sealed the overall crown with a total of 175.4 points, marking his third personal best in the 200-meter breaststroke event. Qin bagged another gold with a time of 2 minutes and 7.32 seconds, refreshing the World Cup record. The Queen of the World Cup, meanwhile, went to Australian star Kaylee McEwen. The Queenslander set a new meet record in the 200-meter backstroke, finishing off in 2 minutes and 4.81 seconds, marking a sweet end to her season. The 22-year-old made history, sweeping gold medals in 50 meters, 100 meters, and 200 meters backstroke races. With all three backstroke records to her name, McEwen reminds herself to stay grounded and be focused on getting better in training instead of winning.
One of the most important things for me is being consistent in training and getting up and being able to do that in racing as well.
The three-time gold medalist at the Tokyo Olympics will be the one to watch at the Paris Games next year. Janice Lo, HKIBC.
Over in Formula One, Max Verstappen has notched his 50th career race victory, while Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc were disqualified at the United States Grand Prix in Texas. Raymond Young reports.
A brilliant start by Lando Norris saw the Briton leapfrog Charles Leclerc ahead of turn 1. But that was just the start of what would be an eventful United States Grand Prix. For the 6th time this season, Esteban Ocon failed to complete a race. Both the Frenchman and Oscar Piastri suffered damage to their cars and had to retire. It was a blow for the Australian rookie, who finished second at the last race in Qatar. Max Verstappen, who started 6th, was back in the lead by the halfway mark after overtaking Norris. Norris tried to spring a move on his opponent with an unexpected pit stop a few laps later. But Red Bull reacted brilliantly, and despite their rather slow stop, kept Verstappen in front the rest of the way. Lewis Hamilton showed serious pace towards the end of the race, first overtaking Leclerc, before zooming past Norris, and was even gaining on Verstappen before eventually settling for second. But the FIA announced hours later that both Hamilton and Leclerc were disqualified after their cars were deemed to be too close to the ground, which could gain an aerodynamic advantage. Verstappen clinched his 50th career win, becoming only the 5th driver to achieve the feat. Raymond Yang, HKIBC.
On to the weather now. Expects a few light rain patches before turning sunny tomorrow. Temperatures will range between 25 and 29 degrees. Fine and sunny for the next couple of days. Now let's take a look at the weather around the world. That's our main news for Monday night. Join us for more news at 11. I'm Janice Lo. Thanks for watching. Good night.